Welcome to the Gals Guide podcast. Join us on an adventure to get to know famous and infamous women from around the world. Each of our presenters has a pick. Is she ancient history? Is she breaking news? Is she safe for work? Well, that's up to each presenter. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
To Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, please be aware that this podcast contains the names and images of deceased persons. Welcome back. I'm Katie, and I'm joined by Leah, Bonnie, and Barb, sharing our Australian gal pet pick. Bonnie already talked about Julia Gillard, and Barb shared with us about Edith Cohen. But before we dive back in, I would like to get to know something random about our gal pals. I would like to know if any of you have ever tried a Vegemite sandwich.
I can sing about Vegemite
Can you?
sandwiches.
Look at that.
I can.
Is that also a Men at Work song? I'm trying to remember, but yes.
Yes. I have never had a Vegemite sandwich.
Ooh, do you guys know what it is?
It's a spread, right?
Made out of
Vegemite.
yeast.
Yeast. Well, I eat a lot of yeast, nutritional yeast.
Right.
How have I
Exactly.
not had?
Bonnie,
Wow.
it is brown. It is very brown. Have you had
seen
it?
I've seen it.
What is
Did
your
you
take?
love it?
Hot take on Vegemite sandwiches.
I had it. I need a retake
Yes.
because I had a little bit once when I was in middle school. We did the people-to-people student ambassador program. So
I
we went down
remember
to
that.
Australia.
Yes.
And that was like before we went. They had some Vegemite on. I think we just had it on like a cracker.
Okay, gotcha. There you go.
No, they put
Weetabix,
it
maybe.
on like
Yeah.
everything. But I guess there's a particular way you're supposed to
Yes.
have it to make it taste good.
Yeah.
And I don't think putting it on like a Ritz cracker.
Yeah, no, that's
not the
correct.
way to
That
go.
is
I think
not the
it's
way to
okay.
do it. Yeah.
Like, I know they put on like a lot of stuff. I think you're supposed to have like butter
Yes.
and Vegemite.
So it's supposed to be, you're kind of, the bread can vary, and the bread can be toast, but generally it's not toasted. But it is a slabbing of butter first, and then it's the yeast paste. I'm laughing and smiling that you can't see on the podcast because we're actually going to have at our first Friday, we're going to have Vegemite sandwiches for
Nice.
people to try so they can try some of this either butt of the joke or interesting, what is this sandwich, or what
But-
is this taste, and be like, try some yeasted bread.
Have
It's
you
called-
previewed it?
I have not because it's supposed to arrive today from Amazon.
Okay.
There's also so England has Marmite. It is
Mhm.
basically the English version of Vegemite, and they have the same bottling and stuff like that. Those are the two differences. Barb, you were gonna say?
So, is
Yeah.
it different flavors? I mean, are there
No, it's
different?
I think
It's just
the
It's just
one.
yeast.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
yeast.
It's
Well, usually,
kinda-
like you could dress it
So it's
up
supposed to
and
be like-
put something in it.
I mean,
You can,
when we
but
use
why would you?
nutritional yeast,
Yes.
it's supposed to be cheesy. So is
Yes.
it supposed to be cheesy, or is it more like
Savory.
roasty, nutty?
That's the part where
Savory.
I'm wondering how much on the savory
'Cause
spectrum
I think you guys
it
can all
is.
tell I haven't
Yeah.
tried it.
Yeah.
And I've tried a lot of foods.
I love nutritional yeast, so I'm actually really excited to kind of try it, especially with
And
the
butter
butter
makes everything
aspect.
better.
Yes, it does.
They eat in Iceland this hard dried fish.
Ooh, yes.
It's very potent smelling.
Yeah.
But when you eat it, you can or you should or you could. Lots of people do dip it in softened butter.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you're like,
yeah. Yep.
You dip
Butter makes
anything
everything
in
better.
butter,
Yeah.
right?
And then it's
Mhm.
Yep.
So I can see how that might
Nice.
work. That's
Looking
very
forward to it.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's a savory treat instead of a sugary or crunchy
Yes,
treat
yeah.
is the idea of having
Okay.
that variation.
So would this be like a lunchtime sandwich delight or an anytime?
anytime.
It's an
at any
anytime.
time. Okay.
You know how we
Everything.
have that phase in our lives where we have ramen and tuna fish because we can't afford much else?
Yeah.
It's a staple diet. So
Okay,
Vegemite is
okay.
like always available. It's always in that. It'll last a very long time. So
Ooh.
even if it's not necessarily like super affordable as the bottle, you buy it once. It's in your cabinet. Like you
Okay.
have it when you need it to
If you
eat
encounter
something.
a 6'4" man from Brussels,
Right.
full of muscles, he will give you the Vegemite sandwich.
And
I
I
will keep
gladly
my
accept.
eyes open on Friday.
Yes, I
then
know.
I wouldn't mind a 6'4" man from
I know.
Brussels.
We'll see what we can do. I mean, we did order from Amazon.
I
I don't know what the add-on
I'm
was.
sure they have it at that. I wanted to call it Trader Joe's. It's not Trader Joe's. The
Oh,
thing out in Ohio.
Oh, Jungle Gyms. Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it would
We.
be there.
Yep. Exactly.
They probably have it
I wonder
at
if they have the international market.
yeah, because that just opened there across
Saraga.
Saraga, across
Yep.
from the
It's at
Costco
Saraga.
in Castleton.
They have Vegemite
Yeah,
and Marmite.
Marmite.
Your
have all
Meijer
of
will
it.
have Marmite because they have a British section.
But they don't have
So-
the Vegemite.
I've
But they don't
never
have
seen
Vegemite.
a British
A little
section in.
Vegemite at
Yeah.
Meijer.
Ours
Like,
does.
it's just the tiniest.
I always think it is,
Thing.
but then I look closely and it's Marmite. But
Oh,
it might
okay.
be because I really think it's also there too. But
Is the
it
Marmite
wasn't.
in that yellow
Yeah.
can too? That's...
Yeah, it's like a brown oval, but a yellow, bright yellow top, and then a yellow and red labeling.
Yeah.
They look so close to the same. So I'm excited.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like their peanut butter. They
Yeah.
just kind of put it on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It does not
Interesting.
look
I'm excited to know why.
appetizing. It's
I've
very
definitely seen it.
squeamish
Yeah,
for a
it's-
bunch of middle schoolers to try and eat that. Everyone was like,
That's so
yeah.
fun.
Or
though.
I would also say it's equivalent to Italians and Nutella. It's a
Mm.
pride thing. It's a staple. It can be put on anything, and it's. I
Okay.
mean, my children are like obsessed with Nutella. So
Nutella is
almost got-
yummy.
yes, maybe Vegemite
Well,
is.
maybe it is. So
Maybe.
I guess maybe I'll have to show up and give this a try.
I will also say, if this is fair, I also like haggis. So I don't.
I don't know that
Weird-
I've ever had
Mm.
haggis
Oh, okay.
either. What is haggis?
You don't want to know. No. Don't. No. You don't want to. It's a Scottish delicacy.
It's organ meat.
It is.
tasty? You think it's tasty?
Yes. You do.
Have you?
I have not had.
Bonnie was shaking her head
I-
violently no.
I
Because
don't,
the process
I have
of it is
blocked
horrible.
out the memory of what it is. Like I know it's some kind of like, or it's like
It's everything
Scottish
put into a
turducken.
thing. Yeah.
It's like a thing stuffed within a thing.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
I think
Okay.
it's like a sheep's stomach. is
Okay.
the
Yeah,
outside.
there's lots of animals.
All right.
It's tasty.
Well, if we can recover from that.
Sorry.
so
Yeah,
far,
Vegemite.
Vegemite.
And that's what I wanted to say. So I'm not a judge of
I
food,
would rather
obviously.
have
Okay.
Vegemite
Okay.
than haggis.
There you go.
That's where I am
yes.
too. That's
There-
where I am
there
too.
are cheers.
So, all right.
There's steps.
Yum. Can you pass me the peanuts? No, I'm just kidding.
You can have my nuts, Barb.
You say the sweetest things.
I
to me.
know.
No. Aw. Katie, who do you have for us?
Well, if all of you have already listened to Barb's previous podcast, I
Yes.
have another money honey for you.
Ooh.
Another woman who graces the monetary. What is it? They do call them dollars.
They do.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
The Australian
The
dollars.
The
Yep.
Australian dollars.
Ooh.
She's
nice.
actually on the 20.
Look at that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Is
I like these money ladies.
and their money's so pretty too.
Oh,
I'm
it's
really
gorge.
drawn
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
go to a
Mhm.
different country
Yes.
with looking
It's
up their money.
colorful.
I swear every country has prettier money than we do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's colorful and pretty, right?
I mean,
think
I'm
they're
used to the
even-
green, but
Right?
I think
And
they're
more
even different
women
sizes, which is
on
easier
money.
for people to tell.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Always helpful too.
Yeah.
Or because it's one of the countries I've been to in Iceland, most of their money has fish, like sea
I mean, that makes
creatures
sense.
on them.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it
an
does make
island.
They're
sense,
super
but-
cute.
I get it.
But anyway, if you don't already know, because you don't live in Australia, on the $20 note is Mary Reibey.
Ah.
So have any of you heard that name
I have
before?
not.
No.
No, she's not. She would probably, like, if you live in Australia, you'd be like, oh, Mary Reibey.
See? There
Quite
you go.
right. But she's
Yes.
also on your stinking money.
Right. Well, there's that.
That
yes,
helps,
Right.
that helps.
So that
Yeah.
might.
Mhm.
Okay.
We still knew who Andrew Jackson is, and we really shouldn't.
Right?
Because he's on our stupid money.
Well, Mary Reibey, she was born on May 12th, 1777. She was
Ooh,
actually
way
born
back.
Oh, wow.
in England, in Lancashire.
Gotcha.
So she was English-born merchant, ship owner, and trader who was originally transported to Australia as a convict.
Ooh, the
What the
convict
heck?
And then after
history.
gaining her
Yes.
freedom,
Kinda.
she was viewed
Yeah.
by her community later on in life as a role model and became a legendary businesswoman
Love
in
it.
the colony.
Beautiful.
So very interesting story
Mhm.
she has.
And she was born what year?
She was born in 1777.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, I know, right? She's a busy lady. So she was actually baptized Molly Haydock,
Okay.
and I never
Okay.
found out why Molly became Mary. I just have to assume
Yeah.
that since everybody at that time period was called Mary or Elizabeth,
Right.
she just decided to go with the crowd and switch it up to Mary because that's all
Maybe-
I got.
unfortunately, maybe everybody called her that, so she's like,
Maybe.
fine, we'll just go with
Possibly,
that.
yeah.
And I don't have a lot of information about her formative years, her growing up, but I'm going to guess that it wasn't a happy story because she did
Gotcha.
lose both of her parents.
Aw.
She was then taken in by her grandmother. I don't know
Very
how long,
similar
right?
to Edith.
Well, it sounds like Edith's grandma gave her room to blossom and was cared
It's
for.
true.
And I don't know if Mary's grandmother was not kind or what their situation was like, but her grandmother did end up sending her into service
Oh, okay.
when she was very quite young. Because from what I've read, she went into service, and then when she was in service, she ran away and was arrested for stealing a horse. And at that time, she was 14 years old.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when she stole the horse, she was disguised as a boy and going under the name of James Burrow.
Ooh,
And she was
good name.
right. She protested at her trial, or however it was proceeded at that time, that she had only borrowed the horse so that she could get home.
Oh, yeah, fair.
And I dug in too deep, but I was like, she made the name Burrow. Sounds like borrow. I was like, I think she's pure of heart.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give it to her. But
Yeah, sure, maybe.
Right. So she was originally sentenced to death for
Oh my
stealing the
gosh.
horse at 14.
Whoa. Oh my
They
gosh.
take
That's
horse
severe.
thievery
I guess so.
very seriously.
This is what Edith fought against
That's right.
all those years later.
There was
Um,
a precedent.
So she,
Oof.
thankfully,
Right.
it
yes.
was, her sentencing was changed to 7 years of transportation
Okay,
to
gotcha.
Sydney, Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And it was apparently, I don't have any background on this either, but it was apparently after she was sentenced was when they realized she was a girl. So she went through her
Oh.
whole trial as
Oh my
James
gosh.
Burrow,
Wow.
but was still sent to Australia.
Right.
So she actually arrived in Australia about a year later after her crime.
Okay.
And she was assigned as a nursemaid in the lieutenant governor's house there
Okay.
in Sydney.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, that seems like that could have been the best possible outcome
Right?
at
Because
that
I
point.
mean, I really don't know that much about transportation.
Okay.
Transportation, I guess that's what it's called. That sounds so weird to say, doesn't it?
And you
Being
could
sent
be-
to Australia for your crimes. I mean, I knew
Right.
it could
Oh,
be.
yeah.
More of like exile.
Yeah.
Right.
hmm
So I don't know, like, I would assume that you were sent there and you were in prison.
Yeah. Also
However,
could've
it
been
sounds
working the
like
ship.
Yes,
Yeah.
working positions.
Right.
If they were
filling the
sending you
things.
from England to Australia, that probably would have been months of voyages. So you might had to work the ship while you were
Yeah, kind of
get
like
there.
being
in
convicted
servitude.
over. Yeah. Oh God. And exiled. Yeah.
But she was assigned that position, and I mean, basically to me that sounds like she was an indentured servant.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was
Very
forced to
much
work
so.
there. She didn't have freedom. That was part of her
Yeah.
sentence. However, after her time in serving her sentence, she remained in Australia. She met Thomas Reibey, and he was a junior officer on the store ship Britannia. I wish I knew more of the story about this one, but according to online, it says, many sources online, it said that he proposed to Mary multiple times before she accepted his proposal.
Aw.
And at that point, she was 17 years old.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
well, I mean, have him ask
So
a couple
still-
of times then.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
you're 17.
Right.
Still a time period, yes.
So he was a Irishman, actually, and super
Oh.
ambitious.
yeah.
And so he eventually started his own shipping business, getting land and shipping from Hawkesbury River to Sydney, kind of an
Okay.
in-between there.
Neat.
And he
Nice.
expanded that business, but he also he was away a lot because it was a cargo business. And once he expanded, he started going abroad as well. So when he was abroad, Mary took over the business and ran
Running it
things.
from-
She also, it sounded like, worked as a hotel manager.
Yeah. That
Wow.
would make sense,
Yeah.
especially if you were near water
Right.
to have a
All
hotel
those-
stop.
all
yeah.
those ships coming in.
Exactly.
Right. So they were buying property, expanding, adding ships. He started trading with coal, cedar, furs, and skins. He also had a partner join so that they could start extending their business into the Bass Strait and the
Oh,
Pacific Islands, and then into China and
Oh.
India. So you can tell kind of from some of that information that he had amassed a large business with
Yes,
varied
yes.
interests. So unfortunately, Thomas became ill, and he died in April of 1811.
Gotcha.
A month later, his business partner also died.
Oh my gosh.
So at that point,
leaves to her then?
yeah.
Oh wow.
So Mary assumed sole responsibility of all of the business enterprises and their 7 children.
Oh yes. I mean that checks. Whew, yes.
Good
gracious. He comes back, right? And what's going to happen when he comes back before he's gone for months and months and months? Baby making.
So 17 years of marriage, and they've built up their business, had 7 kids.
7 kids.
7 kids.
Wow.
And now she's left to handle all of that on her own. And she absolutely killed it.
Nice.
Perfect.
She expanded his business. She added 2 more ships. She got into property buying in Sydney. So if you visit Sydney and you see a lot of the old historic buildings there, a lot of them were actually purchased and built by Mary.
Oh,
so including the first bank. She was one of 6 people that founded the first the Bank of New South Wales.
Oh, nice.
And it was actually one of her houses, the Marquee Place, where that was established originally.
Well, if you had a whole bunch of money, I mean, what better than to build a bank around it?
And then the cool thing is that this bank still exists but has a new name. It's called Westpac.
Oh, okay.
And one of the most fabulous things I learned about her is that bank that she founded, now Westpac, every year gives a Mary Reibey grant to a non-for-profit organization that enables opportunities for disadvantaged women.
Oh,
Very
keeping her
nice.
legacy alive.
And what a legacy. I mean, she was in her heyday in the very early
1800s.
Yeah, and there's still grants being given out in her name. I mean, she's still on money as well.
Yes.
So she definitely had an impact on Sydney. Definitely had an impact on the look of Sydney. With a lot of the buildings, and I'm talking, she bought entire streets.
Ooh, nice.
Of Sydney, so she was a powerhouse.
Good for her. Good for her.
So in 1820, she returned to England for a visit of her hometown with her 2 daughters.
Right.
Apparently, when she arrived in Lancashire, she was received with interest and admiration.
Oh, because she returned rich?
Yeah. That's what it takes, guys.
Note to self.
No, I mean, her social standings in Australia, her wealth, her legacy had definitely trickled the way into English society, knowing who she was and as well. So she was very much came back to the fanfare versus leaving as a 14-year-old horse thief.
Right.
So that's quite a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also was cracking up because talk about trying to be able to create your own story and your own legacy. So she came back after being in England for a year. So she came back in 1821. And then on the 1828 census, when asked to describe her condition, she described that she came free in 1821.
Oh, there you go.
Instead of describing her,
her original
origins story,
she came free.
Yeah.
She did. Free of her own
that was not
at that point
a lie.
Yeah,
she just
secondary
truth. Arrived.
She omitted some details.
So that one cracked me up a little bit. But apparently, she was also, while juggling all these children and businesses, very attentive to charitable works and education. In 1825, she was appointed one of the governors of the Free Grammar School.
Nice.
And then when she was around 50 years old, she started to retire to step back from her businesses.
Started to.
Absolutely. And at that point, she devoted more of herself to her different causes.
Nice.
She also built her house in Newtown, Sydney, where she lived until her death in May of 1855. She died of pneumonia at 78 years old.
Gotcha.
Another long life.
Yeah.
Though. Very good.
But her house still stands. I tried to look up if you can tour it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't seeing anything about you being able to do that, but you can walk by it. There's a lot of famous structures. There's one called Fig Tree House in Sydney. That was one of the houses she and her husband built. She also has a memorial in the Pioneer Memorial Park in Botany Cemetery for her. So she also has been written about in at least 3 novels based on her life.
Ooh.
probably one of the most popular ones is called Sarah Dane, and it's actually a fictionalized account of her life, kind of based on it.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be one you'd want to read if you wanted all of the exact facts of her life, because they invent a second romance later on. So it's loosely factual.
Gotcha.
But it was also made into a TV miniseries in 1982.
Oh, cool.
So a more accurate novel to read would just be Mary Reibey by Kathleen Pullen.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to share about her lasting legacy is that there's also named in her honor the Reibey Institute, which is a not-for-profit research center which provides insight and exploration of Australian women's leadership issues.
Love it.
Love it.
I love that exists.
Right?
In any country. That's amazing.
Right?
Neat.
It exists in Australia and named after
Yes.
Mary Reibey.
Yay.
I like how the advocacy has been a theme through all of the women that we've talked about today.
Right.
So that's awesome.
Very
Absolutely.
cute. I like it. I wondered if the Australian convict colony was going to come up in any of the histories, because it always has been an interesting history to me, because I see the reinvention.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the cool and amazing and thoughtful people that come out of that. Also, I lived in Savannah for a while, which was also a convict colony. And that town really was built after being a convict colony of, let's plan out the city. Let's make this a completely new thing. And they're so proud of what was built out of that they're like, well, we'll joke that it was a convict colony and it was a debtor's prison and things like that. But they know that it's so embedded. If they didn't have that, they wouldn't have the amazing people that they had.
Yeah.
So, So I watch a lot of Australian documentaries, and I was like, this is so cool.
Definitely. I
Love
think
it.
her story is, I don't know, just that whole journey to go from having so little power to having the power to be able to help people and make a change and affect, Sydney as it became a large city.
Yes.
It's just incredible.
And it's a good reason to be on the money, because then you're a reminder of that.
Right? She's a money honey. I don't know. I just really like that.
I do like the idea of the
A
money,
money
honey.
honey.
I think that should become a thing. I mean, like, but
I'm
is
a
she a
money
money
honey.
honey? Is
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if we had bingo cards that people could play at home, is she on one of the bingo cards?
She's a money honey.
I've been wondering, since I think you said her trading went all the way up into China.
Yeah, I know. Pirate.
Yeah.
She was living at the same time
Is Shang-Chi?
as Shang-Chi. So I'm wondering if Shang-Chi ever got one of her ships.
Ooh,
And
yes.
if they knew about each other or anything.
That would be. I mean, if nothing
Interesting,
else, I
right?
can see the historical fiction novel.
Right.
Based upon
Right.
the idea of
Friends
what
to
if.
lovers.
Yes, please. I love Shang-Chi.
I think enemies to lovers. Just saying, if you're taking a ship,
I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
it's a good trope.
Yeah, very true.
Well, any other
I'm going
questions?
to steal your ship and then I'm going to steal your heart.
Right, exactly.
Good one.
It's ladies supporting ladies,
Right.
stealing other ladies' things. Too fun. No,
That's fun. That was a fun one.
dig it.
That era is, that's just
Interesting,
surprising
right?
that she
Yeah.
was born in the 1700s and what she was able to accomplish. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and having it still exist today and
yes.
still doing good stuff.
Well, in Sydney, I mean, that's one of the cities that you think of. It's the, it's the most popular city, I think, when I think of Australia. And that she's, she had her.
helped found so much of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Staked her claim, if you will.
Yes. So now
made her mark on the
I want to
streets.
go even more than I did
to
before.
find some of her architecture. Good.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Sweet.
All right,
Yes.
then I'll wrap us up. Right.
Yes.
That wraps it up for us this week. Join us next week when another Australian is picked to share as Gals Guide podcast continues. Thanks for listening.
Want to learn about more women of history? Gals Guide opened a unique women's history lending library. Come visit and explore our collection. Learn more at galsguide.org. Thanks for listening.